The moment Logan Reed stepped through the heavy steel doors of Ironvale Industries, a wave of scorching heat slapped him straight in the face, making him break out in a sweat immediately. The chaotic sounds of industrial machinery overwhelmed every one of his senses. The rhythmic pounding of hydraulic presses, the screeching of conveyor belts, and the occasional shouted command echoing faintly through the noisy symphony. "You're the new guy, Ryan Cole, right?" A heavy-set man with thinning hair and deep wrinkles etched into his face approached holding a clipboard. The name tag pinned to his chest read, Dylan Brooks. His eyes carried the weary look of someone who had spent a lifetime on this factory floor. "That's right." Logan nodded, subtly adjusting the baggy blue protective gear he had purchased specifically for this special mission. The coarse fabric chafed against his neck, a far cry from the tailored suits he usually wore in his role as CEO of Reed Enterprises, the parent company that had acquired this plant just 6 months ago. Dylan squinted at him. "Your hands are too soft. Not made for factory work." Logan awkwardly rubbed his hands together. "I just recovered from a work accident. Been out of the game for a while." The lie came easily, but guilt weighed heavily on his heart. He had planned this undercover mission after receiving alarming reports from the operations department declining employee morale and uptick in workplace accidents and whispered rumors of exploitation. The board of directors had tried to stop him, but Logan couldn't ignore the growing sense of unease gnawing at him. "No worries. By the end of this weekend, your hands will either be calloused or bleeding." Dylan grumbled, motioning for him to follow. "Orientation's over there. But the real lessons start when Victor notices you." "Victor Hayes, right?" Logan asked, making a mental note of the name. "Yeah, floor supervisor. He's ruled this place like an uncrowned king for 15 years. Dylan lowered his voice, casting a wary glance around. "Word of advice. Don't talk back. Don't ask questions, and don't slack off. Not even for a second." As if summoned by Dylan's words, a towering man with cropped silver hair and a face flushed with anger burst through a door marked Floor Supervisor. Victor Hayes stormed toward a young worker, Diego Flores. "What did I tell you about taking unauthorized breaks?" Victor's voice thundered across the factory floor, drowning out even the roar of the machines. Workers all around instinctively ducked their heads and focused on their tasks. "Sir, I was just getting some water," Diego stammered, holding up a small paper cup with trembling hands. "Water, huh?" Victor smacked the cup out of Diego's hand, sending water splashing across the concrete floor. "You think we meet quotas by sipping water all day? You're falling behind." Logan instinctively stepped forward, but Dylan's rough hand clamped around his arm. "Don't," he whispered urgently. "Want to get fired your first day." Struggling to contain himself, Logan watched as Diego, face burning with humiliation, slunk back to his workstation. Victor's cold gaze swept the room, making everyone work faster. "This is how it is here," Dylan muttered, leading Logan toward assembly line B. "No one cares about human needs, only quotas." The words stabbed straight into Logan's heart. He had personally signed off on the new production targets, relying on cold, detached reports about efficiency potential. He had never imagined those lifeless numbers would turn into such heartless reality. "This is your spot. 6 frames per minute." Dylan demonstrated the assembly steps with practiced ease. Slow hands mean death under Victor's eyes. Once Dylan left, Logan glanced around. To his left, an elderly man with a deeply lined face and trembling hands struggled to assemble parts. To his right, a middle-aged woman, sleeves soaked with sweat, didn't pause for even a second. Logan clumsily mimicked the motions, but the frames kept slipping through his fingers. He failed miserably to hit the 6 per minute mark, frustration simmering inside him. "You'll get used to it," the elderly man. Samuel Price murmured without looking up, "and if you don't, you'll get fired. Simple as that." 2 hours later, Logan's back ached and his hands were raw and bleeding, When he saw Samuel struggling with a heavy machine part, Logan, without thinking, reached out to help. But that small act of kindness triggered disastrous consequences. A shadow loomed over them. "Oh, the rookie thinks this is a teamwork seminar, huh?" Victor Hayes sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. He was so close that their faces almost touched his gaze. Cold and predatory. "He was struggling," Logan began. "If he can't handle it, let HR deal with it." Victor jabbed a finger into Logan's chest. "Your job is to hit your quota, period. No exceptions." As soon as Victor Hayes walked away, Logan Reed caught sight of a maintenance worker hastily wrapping electrical tape around an exposed wire protruding from a machine's body. Tiny sparks flew only inches away from a spreading puddle of oil. "That should have been properly fixed," Logan muttered to Samuel Price, the elderly worker beside him. Samuel gave a bitter chuckle, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Proper fixes mean shutting down the line. Shut down the line, we miss quota. Victor loses face, so we tape it up and pray." A shrill buzzer suddenly blared, making Logan jump. "Lunch break," Samuel explained, setting down his tools with a sigh of relief. "Only 23 minutes. Don't dream of stretching it." Groups of exhausted workers trudged toward a shabby break room. On the way, Logan spotted a young woman stumbling, nearly collapsing against the wall. Her face was pale, and her uniform was soaked in sweat. "Is she okay?" Logan asked Samuel. "That's Isabella Grant." The old man sighed. "Her kid's seriously ill. She's been working double shifts all week just to afford the meds. If she doesn't collapse mid-shift, it's a miracle." A tight knot twisted in Logan's chest. These were no longer numbers on a report. These were flesh and blood people, being crushed by the very system he had once trusted. Logan silently vowed, watching Isabella's faltering steps. Victor Hayes might rule the floor today, but his reign was nearing its end. 3 days of working as a laborer had transformed Logan into someone else. His muscles were shot, his hands covered in blisters, but he also began to understand and bond with the workers around him. At the assembly line, Logan showed a new worker, Noah Martinez, how to properly lift heavy components. "Keep your back straight. Use your legs. Don't twist." "Thanks." Noah whispered, his gratitude clear. "No one else showed me. Training costs money." Samuel chimed in without looking up. "Cheaper to let you get hurt and replace you." A shadow loomed over them. Victor Hayes had returned, his face twisted in a scowl. "Building a little friendship club here, Ryan Cole." His voice was sharp as a blade. "Just showing him how to do it safely," Logan replied calmly. "Safety, huh? I hired him to meet quotas, not to run a gym class." Victor stepped closer, practically nose to nose with Logan. "You're becoming a problem, Ryan. And problems don't last long around here." When Victor stalked off, Logan noticed Isabella across the line, swaying unsteadily as she struggled with heavy parts. Her face was ghostly white, and her hands trembled violently. During lunch break, Logan found her sitting quietly in a corner, staring blankly at a tiny sandwich. He gently slid his own meal over to her. "You should eat. You need it more than I do." Isabella stared at him, a mix of suspicion and gratitude in her eyes. "Why would you do that?" "Because before we're workers, we're human beings," Logan said simply. After a moment, she told him about her 8-year-old son with severe asthma and how insurance didn't cover his medication. Double shifts were her only option. From across the break room, Logan could feel Victor's piercing gaze like knives in his back. "You're on his blacklist now," Dylan Brooks warned in a low voice as they returned to work. "A kind of power that depends on fear," Logan muttered. "Sooner or later, it collapses on itself." That afternoon, an odd mechanical noise caught Logan's attention. At the far end of the floor, the hydraulic press was letting out an ear-splitting screech. Sparks flew with each descent of the mold. Logan hurried over to Hannah Lewis, the machine operator. "That machine's malfunctioning. Yeah, I know, Hannah answered tensely. I've filed 3 maintenance requests. Victor says we can't stop production. We're already behind schedule. Logan knelt to inspect it. Thick layers of metal shavings had clogged the machine's sliding rails, causing the mold to tilt dangerously. One more misalignment, and it could crush anything beneath it. This needs to stop immediately, he said firmly. I know. But stopping the machine means getting written up. As if sensing the tension, Victor Hayes appeared again. What's the problem here? Ryan Cole. This hydraulic press is a hazard. It needs to be shut down for maintenance. And you think you're qualified to assess that? Victor sneered. 3 days in and you've already made yourself a self-proclaimed expert. I know machinery, and I know a death trap. When I see one, Logan said coldly. We're 30 units behind quota because of loudmouths like you, Victor roared, turning to Hannah. Keep it running. Maintenance over the weekend. 3 more days, Logan was stunned. You're playing with people's lives. Victor leaned in so close Logan could feel his breath. You're right about one thing. That machine is a problem. A wicked smile spread across Victor's face. So you run it since you care so much about safety. The entire floor held its breath. Logan hesitated for just a moment, then stepped forward. Manchi in. For an hour he shakily operated the furious machine. Twice the mold slipped, nearly crushing his fingers. When the screeching grew even more shrill and unbearable, Logan made his decision. He slammed the emergency stop button. The entire plant's assembly line ground to a halt. Workers froze in disbelief, staring at him. Victor Hayes charged over, furious. Do you have any idea what you've just done? Preventing an imminent accident, Logan Reed answered calmly, pointing at the mold that had shifted more than an inch. One more cycle, and it would have crushed my arm. I don't care if it crushed your damn head. Victor Hayes roared, his face purple with rage. You had no authority to shut down the production line. So profit matters more than human lives. Logan raised his voice, making the entire factory fall silent. No one had ever dared challenge Victor like that before. You're fired. Victor spat, pack your things and get out. Security will escort you. A burly security guard moved toward him, but Logan kept his gaze locked on Victor. This isn't over. It is for you, Victor sneered. Good luck finding another job. Once I blacklist you. Logan allowed himself to be escorted out, passing wide-eyed, stunned workers. As he passed Isabella Grant, she managed a silent, grateful nod. Samuel Price gave a slight nod of approval, and for a fleeting moment a spark of hope flashed in Dylan Brooks' weary eyes. Outside, looking back at the looming building of Ironvale Industries, Logan no longer saw a business asset. He saw a battlefield, and his battle was just beginning. That evening, Logan's luxurious apartment felt unnervingly cold. He stared into the mirror. His hands were calloused, his face hollow, a stubble covering his chin. After 3 days working as a laborer in his own factory, he barely recognized himself. What have I allowed to happen? Logan whispered to his reflection. He opened his laptop and reviewed Ironvale Industries' quarterly reports. 22% increase in productivity, 15% reduction in labor costs. But beneath those glossy numbers, all he could see now were Isabella's hollow face, Samuel's trembling hands, and Hannah Lewis's terrified eyes beside the faulty press. His phone rang. It was Olivia Turner, the CFO. Where have you been, Logan? The board meeting's tomorrow morning. I've been investigating. Logan hesitated. Olivia, do you know the real situation at Ironvale? A beat of silence. Their targets are impressive. What about safety violations, forced overtime? Exhausted workers. Another longer silence. HR raised concerns a few times, but Victor always delivered results. Shareholders are happy. At what cost? Logan cut in sharply. I saw it with my own eyes. You're not saying you actually worked there? I did, and I got fired for prioritizing worker safety. Olivia let out a heavy sigh. That's why the board didn't support your little undercover plan. No, Victor's the one putting the company at legal risk. Logan snapped. I'm going to fix this. That night, Logan compiled all the evidence. Covert photos of safety violations ignored, maintenance reports, anonymous worker testimonies. The next morning, he submitted everything to the company's anonymous whistleblower hotline, hoping for swift action, but nothing happened. 5 days later, Logan called Dylan Brooks from a burner phone. Has anything changed at the factory? Worse. Dylan replied, his voice heavy. Victor's gone mad since you left quotas up, another 5%. Yesterday, Isabella collapsed and had to be rushed to the ER. Logan's hand tightened around the phone and the hydraulic press. They slapped some plastic over the damage and kept it running. Now it sounds like a dying beast. Hannah requested a transfer denied. Logan felt a sickening weight settle in his chest. He immediately called Olivia. Did you review the report I sent? Yes. And we investigated. Her voice was tense. Investigated by who? Regional management. They said the complaints were exaggerated. A chilling realization hit Logan. Let me guess, he said, voice cold. Victor's friends. Right. Her silence was answer enough. That night, unable to sleep, Logan paced his darkened apartment. He realized the very system he had once taken pride in was now shielding abusers. His phone buzzed. An anonymous text. The hydraulic system snapped. Part of the lines wrecked. Luckily, no injuries. Victor's blaming maintenance. Attached was a blurry photo, a mangled press frame surrounded by debris. It was the last straw. Logan opened his laptop and sent an email to his executive assistant. Schedule an emergency meeting. Cancel everything else. Then he picked up the phone. George Reed speaking. His father answered, his 78-year-old voice still commanding. Dad, I need help, Ironvale, right? George barked. You already know I've still got old friends there. They told me everything. Why didn't you say anything? I wanted to see if you'd realize it yourself. Your generation is so obsessed with spreadsheets. You forget about people. I want to fix this, but the system's blocking me. If you want real change, George said, you have to tear it down. The next morning, Logan walked into the boardroom immaculate in a tailored suit. No trace remained of factory worker Ryan Cole. The board members stopped chatting, holding their breath as he began. We have a crisis at Ironvale Industries. He distributed folders, each packed with detailed evidence. Olivia Turner grimaced. Logan, you're overreacting. Overreacting. Logan's face darkened. A single mother collapsed from exhaustion, trying to buy medicine for her child. He went on detailing the faulty press, ignored maintenance requests, and the management's complicity. Numbers don't lie. Charles Warren, a major shareholder, interrupted True. But numbers don't tell the whole truth either. Logan shot back. I'm not asking for permission. I'm informing you. Changes are happening. Before he could continue, Logan's phone buzzed. A message from Dylan Brooks. Hydraulic systems failing badly. Victor's refusing shutdown. No one's allowed to leave until quota's met. I think the place is about to blow. Logan's blood froze. Without a word, he sprinted from the room. Where are you going? Olivia called after him. Ironvale, he shouted back. Call management, order an evacuation now. They won't act without Victor's approval. Then call the fire department. 30 minutes later, Logan sped toward the factory. No fire trucks, no evacuation. Only an ominous rumble underfoot and a high-pitched whine from the pressurized system. On the floor, workers moved like frightened shadows. Near the control center, Victor Hayes was screaming at a technician. I don't care if the gauges are flashing red. Keep it running. A loud crack split the air. A jet of high-pressure fluid sprayed out. A worker screamed, Shut it down now! Victor fumbled, hitting the wrong button. The pressure surged. Another pipe burst violently, spraying sparks into an electrical box. Within seconds, flames erupted. "Everyone run!" Logan bellowed, charging headfirst into the chaos. The boardroom was heavy with tension. Some members stared at the evidence packets Logan Reed had just distributed, while others whispered anxiously among themselves. Olivia Turner forced a strained smile and said, "Logan, aren't you overreacting a bit? After all, Ironvale Industries is operating profitably. What about the workers who end up in the hospital? From exhaustion just to buy medicine for their children." Logan's voice was sharp, cutting through hers. "I witnessed faulty equipment, ignored maintenance requests, and local management covering up violations. This isn't overreacting. This is an emergency." Murmurs rippled through the boardroom. An older man, Charles Warren, a major shareholder, spoke up. "Numbers don't lie. Reed, every target is being exceeded. Numbers may be accurate, but they don't tell the whole story." Logan replied calmly, "I'm not asking for approval. I'm informing you Ironvale Industries will change, and those changes start today." The meeting had barely ended when Logan's phone buzzed. A message from Dylan Brooks. "The hydraulic system's in serious trouble. Victor refuses to shut it down. He says no one leaves until today's quota is met. I think the place is about to blow." Logan's blood turned to ice. He shot up from his chair without a word and sprinted from the room. "Where are you going?" Olivia Turner called after him. "Ironvale," Logan shouted back. "Call management and order an evacuation. Now." "They won't move without Victor Hayes' command," Olivia cried in panic. "Then call the fire department," Logan roared, leaping into his sports car and speeding away like a bullet. 30 minutes racing across the burning city. Logan's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. When he reached Ironvale Industries, the sight twisted his heart. No fire trucks, no evacuation orders. From the outside, everything looked deceptively normal. But Logan, through instinct and experience, immediately knew the abnormal trembling beneath the ground, the high-pitched, unnatural screech from the hydraulic system, the panicked, hollow looks of the workers still mindlessly slaving away like ghosts. Near the central control panel, Victor Hayes, red-faced and furious, was shouting at a technician. "I don't care about the pressure readings. Keep the line moving." "Mr. Hayes," the engineer pleaded, "the release valve's failing. If we don't shut down now, it will." A sharp crack split the air. A jet of high-pressure hydraulic fluid slashed through the air like a blade. "Kill the power." Now someone screamed. Victor lunged for the control board, but in his panic, he hit the wrong button. Instead of shutting it down, the pressure spiked. A second deafening explosion ripped through the space. Another pipe burst, shooting sparks into a nearby electrical panel. Within seconds, flames erupted violently. "Everyone run!" Logan bellowed, charging into the chaos. In the panic, workers trampled over one another, desperate to escape. But from deep inside the plant, a heart-wrenching cry rang out. "Help me!" Logan shoved against the tide of bodies, forcing his way toward the sound. He found Noah Martinez, the young worker he had once guided, trapped under the main hydraulic press. One of Noah's arms was pinned bleeding profusely into the slick pool of oil. "Please help me," Noah sobbed. Several terrified workers tried to help, but no one knew how to release the machinery. "We need the manual pressure release," Logan ordered. Thick black smoke swirled, choking the air. The automatic sprinklers kicked in, but only served to spread the chemical fires. Through the dense smoke, Logan spotted Victor Hayes, not helping anyone, but frantically gathering paperwork from his office. "Victor," Logan roared, "where's the manual release? A worker is trapped." Victor's face was ashen. He stammered, "There's no time. We have to leave." Before Logan could respond, a second explosion rocked the building. The main power cut out. plunging them into darkness lit only by flickering flames. Dylan Brooks stumbled toward him, coughing heavily, shouting, "The main valve's in the maintenance room." But the fires blocked it. Logan clenched his fists. There had to be another way. Behind the press, "There's a hand pump," a voice shouted. It was Samuel Price, the old man who still hadn't run. But someone has to crawl under the machine while another adjusts the mold. Samuel wheezed. "I'll do it," Logan said without hesitation. "You're insane." Dylan grabbed his arm. "We have no choice," Logan growled, stripping off his jacket and racing toward Noah. Crawling under the giant press, the black smoke burned. Logan's eyes, blood and oil, dripped onto his face. Above him, Noah gasped for air, his face contorted in agony. "Hold on, Noah," Logan urged. Using every ounce of strength, Logan began cranking the manual pump, fighting for every turn, as if wrestling death itself. "It's not enough," Dylan shouted. "Pressure's still too high." "We need the auxiliary valve," Samuel coughed, where Logan yelled, "Top of the press. Red handle." Samuel pointed through the smoke. Through the haze, Logan spotted it, a rusted red lever. He lunged toward it, his hand burning as he grasped and pulled with all his might. The control panel's on top of the press. Dylan Brooks coughed. "You'll never make it up there." But Samuel Price quickly dragged over an old ladder from the wreckage. As Logan Reed started climbing, a familiar figure emerged from the thick smoke. Victor Hayes, the man who had trapped himself in the very inferno he created. Their eyes locked for a brief, raw moment. Naked fear and late-blooming awareness flashed across Victor's face. "Wait, Ryan!" Victor screamed, barreling through the smoke toward them. "You don't understand the system." "I understand it better than you think," Logan replied coldly, his hand reaching for the lever. "No, not that one," Victor shouted, lunging forward. "That's the main pressure release valve. If you pull it, the whole plant will blow from the pressure spike." Logan froze, hand hovering inches from the lever. Smoke and fire closed and alarms blared. The floor groaned under the heat stress. "Then help us!" Logan roared. "Tell us what to do!" Victor hesitated. He looked toward the exit door, then back at Noah. Martina's bloody trapped arm beneath the press. "God damn it!" Victor cursed, shoving Logan aside and scrambling up the ladder himself. "We have to do it by the book," Victor yelled over the roaring flames. "You can't just dump the pressure. You'll rip the kid's arm off." "What first?" Logan shouted. "Auxiliary release valve. Green handle. Turn it a quarter turn." Only Logan quickly complied, feeling the press shudder slightly as the pressure began to ease. Now the manual adjustment wheel, counterclockwise. 20 turns. Samuel Price was already at the wheel, spinning it with his old trembling hands. The piston controllers jammed. Victor grimaced. "I have to fix it manually." Without hesitation, he plunged his hands deep into the machinery, grunting as searing metal burned his skin. "Got it!" A metallic clank rang out. The mold loosened, but only slightly. "Not enough!" Dylan Brooks shouted from below. The press still gripped Noah's arm tightly, his face ghostly pale. I can't feel my hand anymore." Noah whimpered. "We need to bleed more pressure." Victor muttered, scanning the surroundings desperately. His eyes landed on a fire extinguisher nearby. "Give me that," he barked without hesitation. Logan tossed it to him. Victor sprayed CO2 directly onto the hydraulic valve assembly, making the metal contract rapidly under the freezing blast. "Now try again," he bellowed. Samuel twisted the manual wheel once more. With a deafening bang, the mold finally popped free, releasing Noah's bloody, battered arm. The group hastily bandaged the wound and began dragging the battered boy toward the exit. But the main hallway was completely blocked by smoldering debris. "Maintenance tunnel, loading dock." Victor coughed, pointing. They stumbled and sprinted through the maze of smoke-filled machinery, following Victor's instincts and fading memory. Finally, they burst out of the factory, collapsing onto the cold ground outside ambulance, and fire truck lights flashed everywhere. Medics rushed to Noah, lifting him onto a stretcher. The boy grabbed Logan's hand, whispering, eyes brimming with tears. "You came back for us, why?" Before Logan could answer, a massive explosion shook the ground behind them. Everyone ducked as shards of glass rained down from the factory windows. Logan looked up and saw nearly half of Ironvale Industries engulfed in flames. While the crowd of workers gathered shaken and bewildered, Victor Hayes sat alone on the curb, his scorched hands trembling. Only Logan noticed him. He walked over and sat down beside him. "Why did you help Logan?" asked softly. Victor didn't look up. His voice was rough. "I couldn't let the kid die, even though you were the one who trapped him in there." Victor flinched as if slapped. He whispered, "I was just following orders. Keep production running, meet the quotas." "Your job," Logan said coldly, "was to protect them." "I used to think so." Victor let out a bitter laugh. "But 15 years of pushing for higher output, cutting costs, doing more with less little. By little, I stopped recognizing myself." The fire engines wailed as firefighters battled the inferno. Through the chaos, Logan saw Dylan Brooks checking off names, making sure no worker was left behind. A news van pulled up. Reporters and cameras began capturing the devastation. Victor saw them and froze, his face stricken. "It's over," he whispered. "Not necessarily," Logan said. "Depends on what you've learned." Victor gave a hollow, bitter chuckle. "What I've learned is I should have left this place long ago, before it turned me into this." He pointed at himself with a look of utter self-loathing. "I was once a worker, just like them. I swore I'd never become the kind of boss who treated people like machines. So when did you change?" Victor slumped down, staring blankly at the charred remains of the building. Bit by bit, each promotion, each compromise. "Every time I gave up a little piece of my soul for a bigger paycheck." A police officer approached Mr. Victor Hayes. "We need your statement." Victor Hayes stood up, his shoulders heavy, his eyes vacant. A worker from the crowd suddenly shouted, "It's him!" He ignored all the warnings. Other accusations quickly followed. He knew the machine was broken and still forced us to work. He threatened us every day. The TV cameras zoomed in on Victor's face, capturing the moment of shame. A police officer stepped forward, his voice firm. "Mr. Victor Hayes, you are under investigation for gross negligence, endangering the lives of workers." Victor opened his mouth as if to protest, then closed it silently. His eyes found Logan Reed. Logan gave a slight nod. Victor lowered his head and rasped, "Yes, everything they said is true." A wave of murmuring rippled through the crowd. The man who had once been the terror of the entire factory now stood before them, a small, broken figure. "Wait!" Logan stepped forward, his voice resolute. "There's something else everyone needs to know." He took a deep breath and raised his voice. "I am not Ryan Cole. I am Logan Reed, CEO of Reed Enterprises and owner of Ironvale Industries." A wave of stunned gasps swept through the crowd. The camera zoomed in on Logan's face, recording every flicker of shock as the workers realized the man who had worked alongside them was their boss. Victor Hayes stumbled back, his face drained of all color. You're Reed," he stammered. "Yes," Logan confirmed. "6 months ago when we acquired Ironvale. I was told the factory was operating efficiently, but something felt wrong. So I decided to find out for myself." A police officer reminded, "Sir, regardless of your position, we still need to secure the scene." "I understand." Logan nodded. "And I take full responsibility for what happened today." The entire crowd fell silent. Logan looked straight at the workers, those who had sweated and bled under the oppressive system. "I created a structure that prioritized profit over people. I set unrealistic quotas without considering the human cost. I failed to oversee men like Victor Hayes." Dylan Brooks stepped forward, stunned. "So you were the new guy, the one who helped Noah?" Yes, Logan nodded. And those 3 short days taught me more than 10 years sitting in an air-conditioned office. He turned to Victor, his voice heavy. You weren't born a tyrant. It was a broken corporate culture that made you this way. It was my blind incentive system that allowed men like you to thrive. Victor shook his head, his voice hoarse. Don't blame the system. I made my choices, and now I'll face the consequences. At that moment, Olivia Turner pushed through the crowd, gasping alongside a team of lawyers. Logan, you can't make statements like this, the legal risks. Exactly because of those risks, we must go public. Logan cut her off firmly. Tomorrow, arrange a press conference. I will tell the truth. Olivia gaped, but the fierce determination in Logan's eyes left her speechless. Logan turned back to the workers. Starting today, everything changes. He declared Ironvale Industries will be rebuilt. Worker safety will be the top priority. Production goals will be realistic based on human capabilities, not fantasy on paper. A small voice rose from the crowd. What about our pay, our jobs? Logan smiled warmly. You will all continue to be paid during the rebuilding process. Anyone injured today, the company will cover all medical costs. No one will be left behind. The next morning, Logan stood before dozens of reporters' cameras trained directly on him. Behind him, the charred remains of Ironvale Industries loomed through shattered windows. Beside him stood Isabella Grant, now recovered, along with Samuel Price, Dylan Brooks, and other worker representatives. The disaster yesterday at Ironvale Industries is the result of a system that prioritized profits over human lives. Logan began, and we are going to change that. The cameras clicked furiously as he laid out strict new safety policies, realistic production targets that protected workers' health, a profit-sharing program so every worker would truly be part of the company's success. One reporter shouted, "And what about Victor Hayes?" Logan answered firmly, "Mr. Hayes has been terminated. However, I also believe in the possibility of redemption. The company has offered to fund his enrollment in an intensive industrial safety training program. The choice to change or not will be his." 3 months later, Logan Reed stood at the newly rebuilt gates of Ironvale Industries. The place gleamed with modern safety systems, wide ventilation spaces, and clear emergency paths. Workers moved briskly and energetically, but no longer with the panicked haste of before Noah Martinez. His arm still wrapped in a light brace approached and handed Logan a small wooden plaque. "Remember why we started. This is the new factory motto." Noah grinned brightly. Dylan had it posted in every production area. Logan walked along the assembly line, smiling as he saw workers greeting each other cheerfully, supervisors offering guidance instead of shouting, suggestion boxes overflowing with ideas. In the corner of the cafeteria, Logan spotted a familiar figure. Victor Hayes, now wearing a simple technician's uniform, inspecting the new safety systems. When their eyes met, Victor hesitated, then walked over. "The new valve systems are up to standard," Victor reported seriously. "I've trained the entire maintenance crew on the new inspection protocols." "Thank you, Victor," Logan nodded. "How's the training course?" "Harder than I expected," Victor admitted, after a pause but necessary. They both looked over at Samuel Price patiently, teaching a new worker how to properly lift heavy materials. Victor sighed. They still don't trust me. Trust has to be rebuilt." Logan smiled. "One day at a time." In the new cafeteria of Ironvale Industries, an elderly man sat quietly in a corner. His face, deeply lined with the marks of time, now radiated a rare humility. It was Victor Hayes. Gone was the commanding foreman's uniform of the past. Now he wore the simple work clothes of a safety consultant. Across the room, Victor's eyes met Logan Reed's gaze. After a brief hesitation, Victor stood up and walked toward him. "The new pressure release valve system has passed all safety inspections," Victor reported plainly, his voice steady. "I've trained the entire maintenance team on the routine inspection protocols." "Thank you, Victor," Logan nodded. How's the certification training coming along?" Victor hesitated for a moment before answering. "Harder than I expected, and honestly, I don't think I deserve this chance." "You may not deserve it," Logan replied, "but the workers out there deserve a safe environment, and you know this system better than anyone." Victor Hayes gave a slight nod. His eyes drifted toward the distance where Samuel Price was patiently showing a young worker how to properly lift heavy cargo, the very lesson Logan had shared months before. "They still don't trust me." Victor sighed. "You can't blame them," Logan replied gently. "Trust isn't given. It's built day by day, action by action." As Victor returned to his inspection duties, Logan stood silently, taking in the scene before him. Ironvale Industries, once a symbol of exploitation and oppression, was now a place where people worked together with respect and clear purpose. Each person here was no longer just a nameless cog in the production machine. They were real individuals, valued, heard, and protected. His father, George Reed, had been right. Real change didn't come from grand speeches or beautifully written policies. It had to be built through real actions, the courage to step into the storm, and the persistence to correct even the smallest mistakes. Logan Reed smiled. He knew that, from the ashes of failure, something better had been planted. Not just a safer, more efficient factory, but a profound reminder. Behind every spreadsheet, every production target, there are lives that deserve to be respected and safeguarded, and that Logan realized was the most valuable product Reed Enterprises had ever created. In the ashes and ruins of Ironvale Industries, not just a factory was reborn, but an entirely new philosophy of how people should treat one another. No more cold numbers, no more shouting orders. Instead, there was respect, compassion, and hands reaching out to each other in times of hardship. Logan Reed had come to understand. A truly successful company isn't measured solely by its profits, but by how it protects and uplifts the people who made that success possible. Because in the end, the most precious thing we can build isn't buildings or machinery, it's trust, respect, and compassion between human beings. If today's story touched something within you, if you believe that real change starts with the smallest of actions, please leave a like. Share this video to spread the message and subscribe to our channel to continue building a world filled with goodness, one story at a time. Thank you for being here with us. We look forward to seeing you again in the next meaningful story.